Friends, Apple is one of the most popular and successful companies today. Its total market value is approximately $4 trillion, which is roughly $4,000 billion. There is hardly anyone among us who hasn't heard of this company or hasn't used one of its products. But do you know how many difficulties and failures this company faced in its early years? Today, we will explore how a company that started in a small garage became such a massive organization that its value now exceeds the GDP of many countries. Apple's first product was the Apple War computer, designed by Steve Wozniak and built entirely by hand. To finance this product, Steve Jobs sold his Volkswagen van, and Wozniak sold his HP 65 calculator, the Apple. I was built in July 1976 in Menlo Park, California, and the first unit was sold for $666. On January 3, 1977, the company changed its name to Apple Computer, Inc. Just 12 days after the company was formed, Ronald Wayne sold his shares to Steve Jobs and Steve Wozniak for $800 and left the partnership. After the name change and Wayne's departure, Apple needed immediate funding. At that time, American multimillionaire Mike Markkula provided Jobs and Wozniak with $250,000 in funding. In the first 5 years, the company's revenue grew rapidly, doubling almost every 4 months. Between September 1977 and September 1980, Apple's annual sales grew at a rate of 533%, rising from $775,000 to $118 million. On April 16, 1977, the company's second computer, the Apple II, designed by Wozniak, was introduced, which was distinct from and superior to other computers of that time. By the end of the 70s, Apple had become one of the top computer manufacturers in the USA. By December 12, 1980, with a share price of $29, Apple's total capital value had reached $1.7 billion. In early 1985, Steve Jobs' relationship with CEO John Sculley began to deteriorate due to low sales of the new Macintosh computer, and with the help of the board of directors, Sculley removed Jobs from the Macintosh division project. In September 1985, Steve Jobs left Apple and, taking some employees with him, founded a new company called Next. That same year, Wozniak also left the company due to disagreements with management, stating that the company was heading in the wrong direction. After Steve and Wozniak left, Apple's sales declined rapidly and the company began losing its worth. In 1990, the company formed a new strategy and introduced 3 lower-cost computers, the Macintosh Classic, the Macintosh LC, and the Macintosh IISI, into the market, which significantly boosted sales. In 1991, Apple launched the PowerBook, which featured a design similar to many modern laptops. By the mid-90s, the company experimented with new products like digital cameras, portable CD players, speakers, video game consoles, and TV appliances. Heavy investment was made in the Newton tablet due to poor market forecasting by the CEO. Meanwhile, Microsoft was gaining market share by launching the cheaper Windows operating system with excellent graphics, while Apple kept launching expensive products. In 1996, just weeks before Apple was about to go bankrupt, the company bought Next for $400 million. On July 9, 1997, after becoming interim CEO, Jobs canceled many products, convinced Microsoft to invest in Apple, canceled clone deals, and launched the Apple Online Store. These policies significantly increased Apple's profits. On August 15, 1998, Apple launched the all-in-one iMac, selling 800,000 units in the first 5 months. This was the first successful product after Jobs' return, designed by Jonathan Ive in a modern style. On July 21, 1999, Apple launched the iBook laptop, a modern invention for its time. 2001 was a crucial year in Apple's history, marked by 3 major inventions. First, the company launched the modern operating system, Mac OS X. In May 2001, the company opened its first 2 retail stores in Virginia and California. That same year, the company launched the Apple iPod portable audio player, which sold 100 million units in its first 6 years. In 2003, Apple launched the iTunes Store, which became the world's best music retailer within 2 years. This was a time in history when Apple rapidly built its value with new and successful products. Between 2003 and 2006, Apple's share value skyrocketed tenfold. By January 2006, Apple's market capitalization surpassed Dell's. Friends, this was the same Apple that Dell CEO Michael Dell had said 9 years earlier he would shut down and return the money to shareholders if he were in charge. In January 2007, Steve Jobs announced that Apple would now make consumer electronics and launched the first iPhone. Within 30 hours, 270,000 iPhones were sold. The iPhone was the first complete smartphone launched with touch features and acted as a game changer in the mobile industry. In 2008, the App Store was launched, significantly boosting revenue. And by the end of 2008, Apple had become the third largest mobile supplier in the world due to the iPhone's popularity. After many rumors, Apple finally launched the first large touchscreen tablet, the iPad, in January 2010. It sold 300,000 units on its first day and 500,000 in the first week. In June 2010, Apple launched the iPhone 4 with video calling FaceTime features and a stainless steel design. That same year, a new iPod Touch and a smaller, cheaper, second-generation Apple TV were launched. In January 2011, Steve Jobs took medical leave again to focus on his health, and COO Tim Cook took charge. Jobs returned in June 2011 to launch iCloud, Apple's cloud computing service. This was the last product launched by Steve Jobs personally. In August 2011, Jobs resigned and became chairman, making Tim Cook the new CEO. On October 5, 2011, after Steve Jobs passed away from cancer, Arthur Levinson became the new chairman. Between 2011 and 2012, Apple launched the iPhone 4S and iPhone 5 with improved camera technology and the intelligent assistant Siri. The iPhone 5 was the biggest launch in history, with 2 million units sold before launch. In 2014, Apple acquired Beats Electronics from Dr. Dre and Jimmy Iovine for $3 billion. In January 2016, Apple announced that 1 billion Apple devices were in use globally. By August 2020, Apple became the first U.S. company to reach a $2 trillion market cap. Friends, Apple continues to invest heavily in technology, and its iPhone series has no equal in the world. Experiments on many of their products are still ongoing, which will redefine the meaning of technology in the future. During its annual WWDC keynote speech on June 22, 2020, Apple announced it would move away from Intel processors and the Mac would transition to processors developed in-house. The announcement was expected by industry analysts, and it has been noted that Macs featuring Apple's processors would allow for big increases in performance over current Intel-based models. On November 10, 2020, the MacBook Air, MacBook Pro, and the Mac Mini became the first Macs powered by an Apple-designed processor, the Apple M1. In April 2022, it was reported that Samsung Electromechanics would be collaborating with Apple on its M2 chip instead of LG Innotek. Developer logs showed that at least 9 Mac models with 4 different M2 chips were being tested. The Wall Street Journal reported that Apple's effort to develop its own chips left it better prepared to deal with the semiconductor shortage that emerged during the COVID-19 pandemic, which led to increased profitability, with sales of M1-based Mac computers rising sharply in 2020 and 2021. It also inspired other companies like Tesla, Amazon, and Meta Platforms to pursue a similar path. In April 2022, Apple opened an online store that allowed anyone in the US to view repair manuals and order replacement parts for specific recent iPhones. Although the difference in cost between this method and official repair is anticipated to be minimal. In May 2022, a trademark was filed for Reality OS, an operating system reportedly intended for virtual and augmented reality headsets, first mentioned in 2017. According to Bloomberg, the headset may come out in 2023. Further insider reports state that the device uses iris scanning for payment confirmation and signing into accounts. In June 2023, Apple formally announced its first mixed reality headset, the Apple Vision Pro, which ran its new Vision OS operating system. The headset was released in February of the following year. On June 18, 2022, the Apple Store in Towson, Maryland, became the first to unionize in the U.S., with the employees voting to join the International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers. On July 7, 2022, Apple added lockdown mode to macOS 13 and iOS 16 as a response to the earlier Pegasus revelations. The mode increases security protections for high-risk users against targeted zero-day malware. Apple launched a buy now, pay later service called Apple Pay Later for its Apple Wallet users in March 2023. The program allows its users to apply for loans between $50 and $1,000 to make online or in-app purchases, and then repaying them through 4 installments spread over 6 weeks without any interest or fees. In November 2023, Apple agreed to a $25 million settlement in a U.S. Department of Justice case that alleged Apple was discriminating against U.S. citizens in hiring. Apple created jobs that were not listed online and that required a paper submission application, while advertising these jobs to foreign workers as part of recruitment for PERM. In January 2024, Apple announced compliance with the European Union's competition law, with major changes to the App Store and other services effective on March 7th. This enables iOS users in the 27-nation bloc to use alternative app stores and alternative payment methods within apps. This adds a menu in Safari for downloading alternative browsers such as Chrome or Firefox. In June 2024, Apple introduced Apple Intelligence to incorporate on-device artificial intelligence AI capabilities. On November 1, 2024, Apple announced its acquisition of Pixelmator, a company known for its image editing applications for iPhone and Mac. Apple had previously showcased Pixelmator's apps during its product launches, including naming Pixelmator Pro its Mac App of the Year in 2018 for its innovative use of machine learning and AI. In the announcement, Pixelmator stated that there would be no significant changes to its existing apps following the acquisition. On December 31, 2024, a preliminary settlement was filed in the Oakland, California federal court that accused Apple of unlawfully recording private conversations through unintentional Siri activations and of sharing them with third parties, including advertisers. Apple agreed to a $95 million cash settlement to resolve this lawsuit in which its Siri assistant violated user privacy. While denying any wrongdoing, Apple settled the case, allowing affected users to potentially claim up to $20 per device. Attorneys sought $28.5 million in fees from the settlement fund. In 2025, Apple undertook its largest investment initiative to date, announcing a commitment to spend over $500 billion in the United States over the following 4 years. This extensive strategy includes the opening of a new manufacturing facility in Houston to produce servers supporting Apple Intelligence, expansion of research and development in fields like silicon engineering and AI, and the establishment of a new advanced manufacturing academy in Detroit. The company also pledged to double its U.S. Advanced Manufacturing Fund and increase collaboration with American suppliers, aiming to create tens of thousands of jobs related to R&D, AI, and manufacturing technologies. The software landscape at Apple underwent a transformation in 2025. At its Worldwide Developers Conference, WWDC, Apple introduced the new Liquid Glass design language, rolled out unified system design updates across iOS 26, iPadOS 26, macOS Tahoe, and other platforms, and significantly expanded the capabilities of Apple Intelligence, the company's personal AI system. These updates aimed to address previous criticisms of fragmented interfaces and use on-device and cloud-based AI to improve privacy and user experience. Despite continued growth in its services sector, including a new all-time high for services revenue in the March quarter and the launch of updated models such as the iPhone 16e and M4 MacBook Air, Apple faced significant challenges. The company contended with a 19% decline in stock value year-to-date, ongoing antitrust investigations by the U.S. Department of Justice, and legal disputes involving the App Store. Competition in the AI space escalated, with rivals gaining ground. High-profile departures and political tensions, including calls for Apple to manufacture iPhones domestically or face tariffs, added to the pressure, making 2025 one of the most challenging years for CEO Tim Cook. In December 2025, Apple CEO Tim Cook met with U.S. House members to push back against the App Store Accountability Act, which could require that Apple authenticates users' ages and possibly collects sensitive data on children.